Hey, welcome everybody to what will be episode 207 on the Customer Experience, Customer Centricity YouTube channel. And of course, as always, I want to thank all of our super paid Patreon members and our free members as well. You can join at the free or paid level at patreon.com/CXCC. But that's pretty much all the introduction I'm going to give today because our super special guest, unfortunately, is a bit low on time today. So I want to pass it off right away to Cindy Brummer, who's kind enough to help us learn more about the ROI of UX. So Cindy, who are you? And take it away.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, my name is Cindy Brummer, and I am the CEO and creative director of a little agency called Standard Beagle. I am going to go ahead and share my screen if I can remember how to do this with Google Meet. Let me go ahead and allow it. All right, so I've given this presentation to a couple of different groups that are generally not customer experience experts. But what I found is that it's kind of tough for us as an industry, or at least the people that I've run into, in terms of like explaining what the ROI is, or even what the value of UX is. But before I get started, just a little background. So my agency does strategy, research, and product design, and we're based in Austin, Texas. And then my background, I feel like I've been doing this like for many years before it was even called UX. I do have a master's in UX design from the Maryland Institute College of Art. I teach UX, so I'm an adjunct instructor at the University of Texas, and I teach their UX bootcamp program. And then I also mentor designers here and there as they come to me. And today I want to talk about the ROI. Like, how do you measure the ROI of UX? How do we even talk about it? And I think that it's really tough to explain to someone like how spending money now and like getting it in front of people when the economy is hard, when budgets are being cut, it's really a hard sell. And so what I want to talk about today are some issues that UX uncovers, what companies can see from the return of investing in them, something that you can talk to them about, and how you can calculate the budget for UX. So I'll start off with a story that I like to tell, and this one was really helpful when explaining to Rotary Club about what UX is. So many years ago, a major e-commerce site had a form that they didn't know was causing them a problem. So I created a fake store here just to give you an idea of what was in it. The customers could add items to their carts easily. But the problem was when they were ready to make their purchase. So when they clicked on the button to check out, they encountered a form that looked a lot like this. So it had a login, it had a register. And at the time, the people who designed this actually thought that this made sense. They thought that it would help repeat customers make purchases faster. They assumed that first-time users wouldn't mind registering because they would be able to come back for more. They were essentially like investing in keeping coming back to the site. So it sounded like a huge win-win. Unfortunately, that whole thing was wrong. And it turns out that there was a major flaw in this form, and the designers didn't know about it at all. So an outside agency conducted usability testing, and they found out directly from users that the form screen was indeed an issue. Those usability experts tested the site, and they asked users to add items to their cart and then complete that purchase. So what they found was that those first-time users actually did mind. In fact, they resented the fact that they had to register at all. And then some of the first-time users couldn't even remember that it was actually their first time. They thought they had been there before. And so they got frustrated because they were trying to log in and they were failing. And even those returning customers had problems. So many of them stumbled on the form. They couldn't remember their email and password. They fumbled through trying to retrieve their information. And as it turns out, after doing some digging, it turned out that like every day, 160,000 password requests were made. And 75% of the people that were requesting the passwords, they didn't even end up completing the purchase. So the form that was supposed to be making things easy was actually preventing sales at all. Now, to fix the problem, the designers did something very simple. They removed the register button and they added one that read continue. So instead of requiring users to register, it allowed users to check out as a guest. So the result was that the number of purchasing customers went up by 45%, which led to $15 million more in sales just in that first month alone. So in that first year, it meant about $300 million in additional sales. Now, the $300 million button story is kind of extreme because of the cost, but the idea of being able to invest in something up front and invest in understanding users and then seeing a return on it, that's not uncommon at all. So those user experience research and design experts, those companies that are investing in it, they have three major benefits: increased conversions, increased productivity, and increased revenue. Now, where I find the disconnect is in explaining what UX is to companies that haven't even yet embraced that practice or understand that there even is an ROI. So, we tell these companies that UX is a process for creating products and services, and it's useful and it's usable for the people. We should care about the people, but that doesn't always connect for them. And what I find is that UX is such a big thing, right? It's almost like a hodgepodge of all these different disciplines. The companies have a really hard time understanding the vastness of the skill sets that are applied in it, because the field that UX covers is absolutely huge. So when we say that UX helps us create products and services that people want to use and keep using, the biggest question I hear is, well, how? So that's when I have to start telling stories. That's not really helpful when you're trying to explain, ROI and the value proposition, but sometimes it's the most effective way. So when we think about that story of the $300 million button, it it's such a big impact that people start to say, huh, I wonder. And then that brings us back to the people. Now, the e-commerce team that thought about the login and the registration and checkout and how it would speed up the whole customer thing, they thought that there would be an investment later, but it really came back to talking about people. And when you talk to the people and understand how people are actually using it, that's when you can see that end return of what's actually going on. Now, sometimes businesses don't know that they actually have problems with their software products or their websites. And they don't understand that the problems that they have are actually turning customers away. So it can help to describe a couple of the common issues that UX can uncover in products and services and websites. And when I'm talking to people about ROI, the first thing I'm usually talking about is accessibility. And we know that accessibility is allowing people of all abilities to access a product or a service. And there's special considerations when designing. And sometimes designers, they don't even think about that. And they only focus on able-bodied users. But designing for accessibility means considering all of the users, even those that have some kind of special need. Now, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 26% of UX or US adults have some sort of disability. That's 1 in 4. And disability can mean vision impairments, physical impairments, hearing impairments, cognitive and neurological differences. So there are dozens of areas to check for in such a vast array of abilities. I'll just give a couple of examples. So those with vision impairments might rely on a screen reader, and not all companies are always thinking about that. They can run into problems when that site isn't designed to be built to ensure that the screen reader can see or read the content itself. And that's what happened when someone with vision impairment tried to access the Domino's pizza tracker many years ago. They weren't able to effectively use the site, and it resulted in a lawsuit for Domino's, which is a big legal cost. Another accessibility problem, when people with arthritis or other physical impairments, it makes it tough for them to use a mouse. So when a product or a service has small clickable targets like form fields or buttons, it can make it hard for those users to actually use the site. And sometimes those users actually want to skip the mouse altogether, so they just want to be able to tab. And sometimes tabbing is poorly implemented or disabled altogether. And this is usually when we aren't even thinking about those kinds of things. So at best, the physical or the impairments might have, people with those impairments might have a bad experience. At worst, there might be legal implications that could be quite costly for the company. So it can be important to think about that when uncovering the ROI of UX. Another one is, is something beautiful but not functional. So a great user experience or customer experience is that balance between aesthetics and function. So it can be both, and ideally it is both, but sometimes people put one over the other. The users, they expect a beautiful design. In fact, 75% of users will determine how credible a site is based on if they find it beautiful or not. And they make that decision in less than 4 seconds. But they also expect it to work. So, a company could have a beautiful design, but if users are having trouble using the features, they might become frustrated. And that company starts to lose credibility. I actually ran into this a year ago when I was using an app called Noom. The interface is very modern, but as I started using it, I found it to be super buggy, and it kept losing my information. And I also had a really hard time understanding the navigation. It just wasn't intuitive for me, and I got really, really frustrated with it. And I started thinking that I had made a complete mistake in trying the service out. Then I compared it to Fitbit, and it has a sleek design. This is actually some old screenshots because it recently changed it. But overall, it didn't have any bugs, and I found it to work really easily. So I said goodbye Noom and hello Fitbit, and so that resulted in a customer for Fitbit and a loss of a customer for Noom. It can be really hard for companies to connect abandonment and customer retention with the actual aesthetics or the usability of a product. And those design flaws can be costly for companies if they don't find them, because they can result in lost sales, lost customers, and even human errors from their own teams. So I found this story about Citibank because they learned this lesson in 2020 thanks to poor design of a software that led them to losing millions of dollars. So in August of 2020, 3 Citibank employees made a transaction to a creditor of their clients, and that transaction was supposed to be $7.8 million. But Citibank ended up sending them 900 million instead. And what was really the issue was the software's user interface. Now, this is what it looked like. And the employees, they all looked at it. The 3 different people reviewed that transfer screen before it was approved, and they didn't notice anything wrong. And the software itself, it had a warning about the transaction, but the warning didn't contain the amount. So what ended up happening was that Citibank said, hey, give us back the money. The person or the company that received the money said, no, we don't want to do that. And in February 2021, a federal judge ruled that those recipients did not need to return the $900 million. So finding and fixing UX issues can make a big impact. Even the small issues that might seem inconsequential can make a difference. So here's an example from the consulting firm GfK. They uncovered through research that one of its clients had poor sales because of a poorly designed buy button. Users didn't notice the button at all. They had a hard time clicking on it. And so the firm recommended adding additional buy buttons in the interface below each product image. So the result was an additional $500 million in revenue per year. So it's really the expertise of researchers and designers that can uncover these issues and help companies see the benefits, usually though after the fact. But expertise is the key here. And I say that because Walmart found out that expertise really matters after they made a decision from a survey that was really asking the wrong question. In 2009, the company survey asked customers if they wanted stores to be less cluttered. So it was a yes or no question. And respondents said, well, yes, less clutter. So Walmart ended up removing 15% of its inventory to reduce the clutter. And they ended up losing 1.85 billion, that's with a B, in sales as a result. So huge impact there. And so the team that made that decision, they were fired. And that survey was changed to a different question. What do you think should change in Walmart? And that open question was a much better way for them to generate feedback from users without causing such a huge decline in sales. So the benefits, or the ROI, is that finding and addressing issues can lead to substantial gains in profitability, but investing is such a long game, it can be really hard to quantify. UX in the short term requires an investment in time and resources, and that can lead to short-term decrease in profitability. However, after that investment, customers can see a significant return. So we've seen this already in some of the examples I've shared. There are really three key areas where UX provides a positive impact for companies. So you can see, I'm sorry about the spelling error there, increased revenue, reduced costs, and competitive advantage. So improving the experience of a product or service can also increase revenue, but not only by increasing conversions, but also by building customer loyalty. So 79% of website visitors will actually search for another site to complete their tasks if they can't find what they're looking for. So a better experience helps remove the obstacles that block users from finishing tasks, and that increases sales. But it also increases satisfaction, which leads to loyalty. UX can also reduce costs in other ways. It can reduce development time and costs. So by doing UX research and design, developers can focus on implementation rather than trying to fix issues all the time. So it's been shown that UX reduces development time by 33 to 50%. And so that ultimately leads to reduced costs. In addition, design flaws that make development or make it to development are actually 100 times more expensive to fix. So it's better to use UX to create a better design so that those errors don't actually make it into development. So it helps you avoid wasting time and money on features that users don't actually want. And it uncovers user preferences as well as problems. So rather than spend precious resources on features for users to ultimately reject, customers can, or companies can, identify what users really need right up front. And then finally, customers or companies that invest in UX have a competitive advantage. So research by Forrester shows that companies who have implemented user experience into their business strategy have gained 43% in performance over 6 years, whereas S&P 500 companies that were tracked over the same period of time only gained 14.5% over that same period. So McKinsey also had that study. You probably saw this. In 2018, they released this huge survey that they had done over 5 years. They tracked millions of statistics. It was 300 publicly listed companies across industries and multiple companies. And they found that these companies that were strongest in design, they outperformed the industry benchmark for growth by 2 to 1. So where do you bring that UX in? How do you calculate it so that you can budget it and show, like, this is what you're going to gain as a result? So the key is to really know what you want to improve. Those metrics are key. So let's take a look at some hypothetical examples. Let's imagine that you have an e-commerce website and you sell both products, or bath products, I should say, and you've noticed that traffic is high, but your conversion rate is only 5%. Your goal might be to increase your conversion rate. So how can you calculate the value of UX into it? So first we need to know the current site profit and also what conversion rate we want to get to. So here's the formula that we're going to use. It's the ROI is equal to the annual site profit times the improved conversion rate over the current conversion rate minus the annual site profit over the improvement cost. Okay, so there's a whole lot of going on in this. So let's plug in some numbers as an example. So if our annual site profit is $1 million, and we want to improve our conversion rate by 5%, here's what it might look like. So we have 1 million times, and we have 0.1 over 0.05 minus the million, that gets to $1 million in the ROI. So those are just the easy numbers, but essentially we're plugging in what we want. So this is what it looks like. We have the net return at $1 million, and the improvement cost was a $200,000. So that gets us to an ROI of 500%. Then that's how we would measure it, and that's how we would show the ROI. So that's a ratio of 5 to 1. If we are calculating the ROI of improving worker productivity, it might look a little bit different. So let's imagine that we have a software product that's being used by internal users at your company, and you've noticed that worker productivity can be improved. So UX can actually optimize that software's interface and improve the productivity. So how can we show that to the company? So let's imagine that we have 5,000 employees that access that software every day, and they complete 120 transactions to complete their work. So some sort of transaction with the software. So let's imagine that we want to invest $100,000 in a team that makes improvements to the software, and those improvements result in a half-second improvement per transaction for every worker every day. So a half-second improvement per transaction in the software, that can really add up over just a year. So let's calculate it. Okay, here's the formula we would use. We would do the number of users times the uses per day times the days per year times the hourly salary of those workers times the increase in efficiency over the improvement cost. So here's how we would plug that in. So we have 5,000 users times they do 120 transactions, so that's their uses per day. They're doing that 230 days a year. We really want to see a half-second improvement. And so what that equals is 19,167 hours. So we put that over the improvement cost, and what that comes out to is a real gain of 479,000 almost. So that's a 479% ROI, almost 500%. So really, these numbers are kind of squishy. There's, they're not necessarily something you're going to report to the CFO, but based on this, it can help you start to say, this is what the ROI is, either post, or you can project it and say, this is what we expect to happen as a result, and can start to give those kinds of numbers as the return on investment. So here's that formula. Again, let me show you. It's the net return on investment over the cost of investment times 100% is what equals the ROI. So this is what we covered today. We talked about some common issues. We talked about the actual what that means, what companies benefit from, and then how to calculate it so that you can actually show it to people. And that's all I have for today. I think I fell within the 20 minutes or just over, Debbie, and I'm ready to take some questions.
Okay, great. People can put their questions in the chat room. We've got one from Chantel I'll read in a minute, but I want to remind people, even though Cindy does have to run in a few minutes, I'm going to stick around past the time and show a couple of slides that I have that many of my slides echo what Cindy is saying. So thank you so much for that. And I'm going to show a couple of extra slides so that we have a couple more angles on it. Chantel says, interesting mentioning Fitbit. They had a bit of backlash when they went through their recent redesign and are now making changes. In cases like these, who do you look for, dare I say, to blame? Does our ROI or value decrease in situations like this?
Oh, good question. We're talking about the most recent redesign that came out, right? Oh, I hated it. I was like, why are we redesigning for the sake of redesigning? It was fine just the way it is.
Good question for Slack too.
Right? I hate to say the blame. I mean, we make mistakes. So I guess we have to go back and look at the research, or why were the decisions made? Who did we actually talk to? Was it based on sound research, or was it just the preference of, a color palette or a modern design that someone saw? I can't answer that unless we know those questions. But honestly, I think if there's a backlash from customers, it might show that, hey, we didn't do our research the way we needed to. And it just really emphasizes the need for sound research in any kind of project.
For sure. If anyone else has questions, now's your chance to get them in the chat. Otherwise, as I mentioned, Cindy unfortunately has to run, but I'll be sticking around a little longer to add a few of my thoughts to this topic. So, last chance for questions because she has another call in about 5 minutes, and we want to give her breathing time. I wish Google Meet told me if people were typing because I have no idea if someone has a question and is typing. But just in case, Cindy, tell everybody where can they find you, follow you, buy something from you, hashtag not sponsored.
Thanks. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. Just Cindy Brummer usually brings me up in a search. There aren't that many Brummers out there, and just let me know that you saw me here. Just because I don't respond to every LinkedIn randomly. Or you can come to my website at standardbeagle.com. We have had a number of blog posts that I've written on different topics that I put there usually. So.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions for you, so we should let you go so you have time to prep for your next call with our thanks again. Emojis up, everybody. And like I said, I'm going to stick around a few more minutes and show a couple of my slides just to add to it if you don't mind.
Oh, thanks, Debbie. I really appreciate you. Thanks for having me, everyone. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks. See you later. Bye. Okay, everybody, thanks for sticking around. I'm going to try to share my screen and talk about a couple of slides I have on this topic, and I'd be happy to take your questions as well. So one is this one. Let's see what comes up on my googly screen. Here we go. So some of you have heard me do my talk before where I talk about the costs of poor quality. I didn't invent this. This comes from Lean Six Sigma, so it's totally Googleable. So if you are looking for more ways to prove the value of better user experiences, customer experiences, products and services that are easier to use, higher quality, better match to what people expect or need, check out cost of poor quality because it's kind of the opposite. It reminds us that when we don't fulfill that for our users, we run into a lot of these. We run into delays. We run into failures and having to figure out what went wrong, what's going right and what's going wrong. Now we have to fix it. We might try to be fast and fix it from guesses. We might take a little more time and do some sort of research and figure out what really went wrong instead of just guessing. Now we've got to redesign, retest, engineering has to rebuild it. All of these cost our company money. And this is all stuff that we should be calculating because these are sometimes hard to predict. But once we have a failure or a problem, we can know these. A project manager would know these. A product manager might know these. You can go to customer support and say, how many tickets this month have a tag related to a certain feature or change that we made. So we have a lot of internal and external things that cost us time and money when we are not delivering a good user experience. That was one slide that I wanted to show. I also, Ana Lucia says there's a real issue with the lack of UX maturity in companies, especially from Europe. From what I've noticed, Europe is a bit behind compared to the US. I recognize the value of showing the ROI of UX to change people's minds, but what can we do as UXers? There's so many companies that have no idea what UX is and how they benefit from having UX. Approaching companies to show them why they should hire us seems a bit intimidating and maybe a bit inadequate. Yeah, and that's why sometimes I don't even use the word UX because people either don't understand it and they don't want to feel unintelligent because you're explaining it to them, or they think they don't care about it because UX, it's easy. Anybody can do it. So I tend to focus on other things that the company cares about. Do you care about attracting customers? Hold on, where's my slide on that? Let's put up some of my slides while we're here. I cannot find my own slide. Please hold. See all slides. Here we go. We all want the same things. So this is something that I'm usually saying to companies and why this was really the core of my book. Instead of my book, Customers Know You Suck, saying UX over and over, I'm talking about we want to attract new customers and get leads or new people to sign on, maybe trials. We want people to be happy. And then we want them to stay and be loyal or grow with us. And there, I didn't say UX at all. I didn't even say CX. I can just talk to companies and say, hey, where are you having some troubles? Are you having some troubles winning new customers? Are you having some troubles with product market fit? Are you getting customers, but then they're not staying? I think if we can use this simple language, we can then talk about, are we sure we're building what people need? Now, we know, everybody on this call knows that's product and service strategy, that's CX and UX, but we don't have to use those words and we don't have to define that for people. I'm happy to use other words that are more comfortable to them so that they feel like I'm speaking to them at a level that makes sense to them. So don't feel like you have to come and do a potential client or a company and say, let me tell you what UX is. I just focus on this stuff. Are you having trouble attracting people, getting them into your funnel, making them happy, keeping them, having them grow with you or repeat purchases? These are things I or my company can help you with, whatever we call it. So I think that is one place to start, which is just take some of the words out of it. Because again, sometimes you say UX to people and they go, oh, that's just making it pretty. We have an artist. Or that's just making it pretty. You know, my niece can do that. I've heard it all. So I would say, you know, I've been shifting away from using those terms just so that we're not fighting over those terms or making people feel like they're not that smart. I wanted to show another, I think I had another slide that I was going to show a little bit about this. Yeah, maybe let's show this one. This is, let's bring up all the animations. There we go. So this is my avoidable risk slide. And Ana Lucy and I were just talking about this in our Slack community. And that is, look, anyone can make a mistake. But whether we've made a mistake or we had avoidable risk and avoidable failure, we do want to take a look at accountability. And some of this is going to play into the ROI. And the story I usually tell on this slide is a story I got from some people in our community who said, I'm a UX designer and a leader above me is telling me, don't design for people with smaller screens, only design for people with larger screens. But of course, we can go into our data and analytics and know how many people with smaller screens are suddenly going to find that our system doesn't work for them at all or not well. This is avoidable risk. This is not a mistake. Let's not pretend this person makes a mistake by making this decision. This is where some of the ROI comes in. When we can help companies not make a mistake and find a gentle way to have the conversation of, this is risk. This is avoidable risk. We should design now for people with screens of all sizes, because otherwise we run the risk of alienating these people. They're going to complain to customer support. Customer support costs us money. Someone's going to come back to UX and say, design it for the small screens too. Then go back to your cost of poor quality slide. UX has to redesign it. Engineering has to rebuild it. Some of our work is in saving people from these mistakes. Now, the problem is it's sometimes hard to put a number on that. How do we prove later what we were able to do in a company because we saved someone from a mistake? But it's the same problem that a lot of people in strategic jobs have. If you are a good strategist, you've saved the company from some mistakes and helped them make better choices. How do you quantify that? It just has to be seen as part of the outcomes that you're measuring anyway. So these are definitely some tough things. I also have a slide. Who knows my 2 trees and a dog slide? These are some slides I've shown before. This is another slide I show sometimes, and let's load it up so I don't have to talk through it. I think that's the whole, one more. There we go. That's loaded up. So this is a slide that I sometimes do to talk about how, and Cindy kind of hinted at this, that bad research or no research or the wrong evidence or not enough evidence is very often at the core of bad decisions. If we can catch this while we're going, we can help save that time and money. So this slide is about how during a project, we can start to see signs and symptoms that we're not working from enough evidence or the right evidence, especially where it's hard to make decisions. If you're on a team where you as the UX person are saying, I think we should do it this way, and the product manager says, I think we should do it this way, and the engineering lead says, I think we should do it this way, you're probably fighting over opinions because you don't have enough evidence and information about what would be right for the target audience. And that's where we need more of that research, whether that's early research and discovery and qualitative and generative, or whether that's also some later research in testing ideas to make sure that we're not just running with guesses and opinions. And of course, after we've released it, we can see some very clear signs that we didn't work from very good or any evidence about our target audiences and what they need, what they expect, and where the opportunities are, like high utilization of support, low utilization of the feature. We didn't meet some of our KPIs or goals for this. We ran an A/B test and it failed. That's one of my favorite ones. We knew A wasn't quite right, so we came up with B thinking that would be better. And then when we run the test, B is worse. We must really not get our customers if B is failing. And sometimes they want to blame the designer, but I don't want to blame the designer. Chantel asks, and I know we just have a few minutes left together, so please do ask questions if you have one. Oh, and there's another slide I was going to pull up. Let me find that quickly while I take Chantel's question. Where is my modeling slide? Modeling, here it is. Okay, so I'll talk about this because it plays into something Cindy mentioned as well. So Chantel says, when showing UX ROI, how often do we have the conversations? I work on an app and the CX ebbs and flows. Is it better to consistently engage business or periodically? I think that's just going to be business to business. How often will you have some good numbers or some good stories? Because some of our stuff is going to be more storytelling than exact numbers. How often do you think you have good stories? I think it would be great if UX did some sort of readout for people, even monthly. Here's something interesting we did this month that surprised people or helped our project go in a better direction or solved a problem or took care of some, hey, when we first put this out there, we had some failures. We had some bad A/B test results. We had a lot of customer support utilization. We had confusion. We had whatever. And then here's something the UX team to better understand that and address that, and maybe you can measure something good that happened after that. We collect all the numbers that you can. It's often hard for us. We don't always have numbers. Sometimes it's in stories, but do what you can to create those stories and think like a researcher. See if you can get quotes from your teammates about how much time that saved. Thanks to something the UX research team did, our engineering lead said, quote, "We probably saved 2 sprints of work on this," end quote. Hey, we all know what 2 sprints of work cost our company. Possibly tens of thousands of dollars or euros, depending upon what you're dealing in. Very quickly, what's on the screen is a little cheapy system that I bought, so hashtag not sponsored, and I think they pronounce it Geru, GERU.com. It's really meant for marketers to show a process or funnel on a website to attract people or convert them, whatever you might be trying to model. And the idea is, from a marketing perspective, if we brought more traffic to the site, how might that increase revenues? And then how can we look at that ROI? Oh, we paid this much to improve traffic or SEO. We got this much out of it over what period of time? Was that worth it? But what I like to do with it, and the example I have on the screen is, let's say we want to change our conversion rate, kind of like Cindy talked about. And here I'm showing an initial conversion rate of about 1.5%. I'm saying, 100,000 people come into the site, X% go to a product page, Y% of that put it in their cart, and Z% check out. Okay, so we have a sense that we have a low conversion rate. What if we made a couple of improvements at each step of the process, just maybe some small improvements where we bump it up a little bit each path or funnel. And then by the time we're done, maybe we can see, I think here I end up modeling like a 2.7 or 2.8 or 2.9% conversion rate, which is really nearly double just by making the homepage a little better, the product page a little better, the cart a little better. These might not have to be complete redesigns, but they do have to be customer-focused improvements that make people more likely to follow through, even with the same traffic coming to the site. Doing nothing with SEO or traffic, we can show that if we can make these small improvements and they lead to these improved percentages. And these are things you can usually get from your data and analytics team. Hey, what was our percentage from this page to this page last quarter? And what was it this quarter? Oh, well, what did we do differently? UX redesigned part of that page. Cool. We should be able to take most of that credit. There's one more thing I wanted to add before we go, because I know I've scheduled these for 45 minutes and oops, that is not the right button. Stop sharing. I almost hit end call. Whoa. Ana Lucia says, if people don't realize the impact of our work, they might think we're expendable. We have to find a strategy that works. So ROI is something on everybody's mind. Funny thing, I never saw anyone questioning the ROI of a few departments, probably because their work is more visible and palpable. Yeah, I mentioned that in my Customers Know You Suck book. When is the last time someone asked a product manager to prove the value of their employment here? Or an engineering lead or a QA engineer. These are not something we ask other people. So it's a little bit skewed and awkward that we tend to be the only people asked to prove our value. To me, the answer is you opened the job and you hired me. That means you know you needed somebody in this role and you put me in it because you knew I was the best match. So I shouldn't have to prove my value or why I'm here. If you don't know why I'm here, why did you open the job? But the story I wanted to tell quickly before we wrap up is about a few years ago. I think this might have been either pre-pandemic or early pandemic. An extremely famous company, I shouldn't name, a SaaS, a software as a service company, came to me through their marketing agency. So what happened was they had a website where they were trying to sell what they do and get people to sign up. And the CEO hated the website and it was not performing very well. So they hired the marketing company that eventually brought me in to increase the traffic, like we were just showing with the modeling. They were hired to increase the traffic, improve the SEO, bring more people to the site. And what they found was even though they were successful and the marketing company did bring significant new traffic to the site was really not performing better. Conversion rates were still low. The CEO was still angry at the performance. And so the marketing person said, maybe my friend Debbie can help out here. She's going to look at this from a very different angle. And the marketing people acted like, yeah, prove it, which we get once in a while. They said, oh yeah, send us a list of 3 things that you would change about our website. Now, of course, they hadn't hired me yet. And I knew that was something they should have paid for. And I knew they probably were never going to hire me, but I went for it anyway. And I said, okay, well, number 1, I can tell from moving through your website that your navigation is extremely difficult and confusing. So that's probably not helping you make any sales, could be hurting it. Number 2, you have your copy is not really written for who you told me your target audience is. I don't think you're speaking to the right person in the right way. This isn't very compelling. Your copy needs a refresh. Number 3, I also found that chances are you redo a handful of your websites each year, but you don't redo your whole website. So I went to different pages that looked like they were invented and designed by completely different people at completely different times. This makes your company, which is owned by a freaking Fortune 50, look disorganized, unprofessional, inconsistent. I said, but let me tell you the 4th thing I found. I decided to put $12,000 of your licenses into your shopping cart, and I pressed checkout. And when it got to the screen where you wanted my credit card for a $12,000 purchase, your credit card form was a blank space on my page. There was my page with a blank space in the middle of it where the credit card should have been. So I did a view source in HTML in my browser. And I found that somebody there had put the credit card form in an iframe. Now, if any of you know anything about browsers or security or coding, then you probably know what I'm about to say next, which was that my browser blocked the content of the iframe, which was the credit card form, because it looked suspicious, because it triggered security stuff, which meant there was no way for me to pay, which meant there was no way for me to check out. And nobody at this company had noticed that, which meant nobody had done testing. Nobody had tested this, and certainly nobody had tested this with a browser that blocks suspicious stuff, which is now increasingly common. I said, I can't imagine, there's the $300 million button story. This is a Fortune 50. This is a company you would all know, I promise. And this is a company that makes its money tens of thousands of dollars at a time. And they said this website had been not performing well for many, many months. Can you imagine how much money they left on the table? Could be the $300 million button. Wacky end to the story. I was not hired, as you all saw coming, but what you might not have seen coming was the entire marketing team was then fired after they told me, don't worry, we've got this handled. We don't need you. And they all got fired. Yes, and scene, clapboard. Ana Lucia says, as someone who has worked as a QA, I've been questioned a lot about the ROI of my work. It's somewhat similar to UX issues. We know what we're doing. Don't worry about it. If there are bugs, we'll fix them later. Yeah, exactly. And I always say to people, look, if you just care about speed, if the most important thing at your company is speed and we go fast and we fail fast, then you need no UX people and no QA people. There's a lot of people you no longer need. You don't need a project manager. You're just going to go as fast as possible with the fewest people possible, and you'll pretend you'll fix it later. You can absolutely do that. I said that at an engineering conference in February 2019. It's a video on YouTube. And then Jared Spool saw that video, and then he's been saying that, which has been a little awkward for me. But I guess it's that good a story that people want to repeat it, though they sometimes forget to credit it to me. But yeah, if we want to go that fast, just fire everybody. Fire everybody who you think, doesn't add immediate, in the moment it happens, value. So no UX, no QA, maybe no marketing. So, it doesn't make sense. We can't do this to people. And I think the companies that will are going to see fresh problems when the economy bounces back. Okay, we're at time. Thank you to everybody for joining. Let's take a quick look at our calendar of events. Oops, this side is cxcc.to/events. We're holding all these free webinars. We're going to wind them down soon since you're all going to start thinking about the holidays and not about me, but that's okay. I support you. We'll still do some YouTube live streams for asking me anything so I can help you out. Please do support my Patreon. It's as little as $1 American a month, and you get lots of stuff ahead of time. Plus, I'm going to start posting some behind the scenes stuff that some of you have requested. So tomorrow we have Office Hours Ask Me Anything, which is live on YouTube. So please subscribe to CX-CC. Wednesday, we're doing 2 webinars this week. Wednesday, I'm going to be reading my article, Doing Research Without a Hypothesis, and doing research for products that don't exist yet. This one throws people off a lot, and I've got an article on it. We're going to read that article and we're going to discuss it. So come with your questions about research with no hypothesis and research, especially for startups where we don't have an idea yet. We don't know what we want to build. How can we research when we don't have that product yet or a prototype or anything? That'll be it for this week. And then let's see, Monday the 6th, we've got Steve Johnson coming back to talk about product management and stories of terrible research we've each seen done. So there will be comedy and tragedy. Next Tuesday should be Dr. Nick. I'll have to check with him. And then, yeah, a couple more things planned. I know, as we were saying with Michelle before, a special thanks to a friend of the show, Michelle, for recommending her friend. I think his name is Daniel. He's coming on Monday the 13th, and he's going to talk about finance tips and kind of finance and accounting tips, especially for you contractors and freelancers. A lot of people mess this stuff up and don't really get their finances or accounting right, or even what their rates could be. So we have a real American accountant coming on to talk about this. Yes, it's Daniel. Thanks again. Sorry, lots of dogs barking outside. Yes, so Daniel will be joining us November 13. Remember, everybody's changing their clocks, so make sure you're looking at cxcc.to/events. We just changed our clocks this weekend, so for some of you, I'm here at a weird time. Some of you are going to change your clocks in a week or two, so just make sure you're checking the calendar for when we're doing this. All right, I'm going to press the stop recording button. Thanks so much to everybody who joined or is watching the YouTube video in the future. Hello in the future. And I hope to see y'all again at a future webinar adventure. Thanks.